Well, I mean, I would say that Denmark, this funny tribal nation, which we all love, is of course part of an international community. And with the developments on the net and so on, there's no way you can isolate yourself, and you shouldn't. But of course, it must be slightly worrying for especially daily newspapers, which are losing readers and losing advertising and losing revenues. It must be worrying, and also for commercial television, to see that Google, when you said international websites, we're talking Google, that Google conquered over the last 3 or 4 years a major part, I mean, up to the total revenues of the Danish big commercial television station, or the same as some of the leading newspaper chains in advertising revenue. I mean, I used to say that it's funny that the 1 billion kroner, close to $200 million, which is a fair share of the Danish advertising market, has been channeled out of Denmark. And when I, as a journalist, look at it, I mean, a company with 3,000 employees and 400 journalists is losing money to a company which in Denmark has something like 12 or 15 employees and no journalists. I mean, in the sense that advertising revenue is moving towards non-content media. I mean, I'm sort of looking for the word. Google, of course, has a lot of content, but it's not its own. Google is a tool to find other people's content. And for that, and then they have developed a very smart and extremely efficient advertising system. And newspapers, for instance, are extremely old-fashioned compared to that. That is a global trend that we see in Denmark. We see, in terms, I'm sure, in terms of the advertising turnover and revenue, you see exactly the same elements in Denmark as you see anywhere else in the industrialized world. I mean, people are leaving the traditional media for the social media and for the internet. So in that sense, we are in a sort of a watershed situation. In that sense that I was talking about government support before. One of the big debates right at this moment in Denmark, and there's a government commission that is now will come out with a report in a couple of months, where you will shift some of the government money from traditional media, especially newspapers, to internet-based media. And what this would mean an interesting shift, because before government support for newspapers was based on, should we say, a technical foundation. How many subscribers do you have and where? Now they'll have to look at content, because they can't just give a wide range support to the internet, because the internet is nobody and everybody and 10,000 million different operators. So it'll be internet-based journalism and public service type media. Well, I mean, it's always, you can say, expertise in what? If you look at it, are we talking expertise in digital development, where Denmark used to pride itself of being in the front line, which we are not to the same extent anymore. I mean, there are things happening in Asia that is sort of happening very fast, and for some a big surprise, which I sort of wonder why. That when you're talking about expertise, when we're talking about advertising expertise, we're talking about technological expertise, digital expertise. We are truly in a global society. I mean, there are no borders anymore. And if you set up borders, you will suffer. Denmark has tried to, and we have a political movement that really tries to set up, spiritually speaking, a fence around this country. I think it's devastating. in that sense, you cannot look at Denmark as such anymore, because technology and people are flowing across borders, either physically and definitely digitally all the time. The basic challenge for Danish media today, as with media in most other, should we say, smaller countries, even bigger countries, is that we simply don't know how to, and again I'm talking content and journalism, we simply don't know yet how to finance it in a new world. We know, and we're very comfortably with paper. The profitability rate on paper is something like 40 times bigger than on the net per reader. You have to have immense numbers of people with the present technology to be unique users of your website and so on, in order to make it profitable. And even in America, where you have 300 plus million people, it is difficult. So we haven't. The business model, and this is now a total banal thing to say because everybody knows it. The business model for journalism and quality content in the new media hasn't been invented yet. And it hasn't been invented in Denmark either.